Kenya has lifted a ban it had imposed on all inbound and transit passenger flights from Dubai 2 weeks ago. According to a report by the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, the suspension expired on Monday, January 24th. The ban of all passenger flights from and to and from Dubai was issued on January the 10th. Kenya exported goods worth 25.2 billion shillings in the 9 months to end September 2021 from United Arab Emirates, while imports from this country stood at 122.35 billion shillings in the same period. Seyi Omodiora is an analyst with financial derivatives company, and he joins me to discuss this further live here on the show. It's good to have you. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Bright and early. Let's start with Kenya. What do you make of this tit-for-tat ban about flights and COVID-19, the testing and the vaccinations involved between the two countries?
Okay, yes. So basically, this tit-for-tat bans from possible partners is not good for anybody. I think we should get to a place in the world where we're a lot more inclusive and a lot more accommodating. Of course, this same tit-for-tat bans, we didn't see any of that in, say, between the European Union and other countries, say the Americas, for instance, and other countries. And this is basically because of the kind of value these countries in these continents are also exporting to other countries. So those kinds of things will also help when it comes to Africa, because on a global scale, it is seen that Africa itself isn't particularly of value. They don't produce or give as much value as they get from other continents. So that probably has had a lot to play in this ban in Kenya. We also saw the same for South Africa as well earlier, when they were the first to discover the Omicron variant. So, of course, this is basically because of the kinds of value that they believe that Africa is not giving enough. So, of course, they don't care so much about that. And I think we should get to a place in the world where we are a lot more accommodative
Of each other. Let's talk about Egypt, just move a little bit north of the Sahel region in terms of why is Egypt such an attractive investor's destination and very appealing bride to the Europeans, for example, even with large institutions such as the EBRD, the European Investment Bank, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. Everybody just wants to put money and investment in Egypt.
Okay, yes. I mean, so what we have seen with Egypt particularly is their location amongst other coastal countries is particularly important, because Egypt, as it is basically at the center of the world. So it is a very, very attractive destination because of that. I mean, trade inflows in and out of Egypt is very, very important. And we see things like the Suez Canal, which will be completed. Yeah, which is a gateway. We also know about the construction that's also happening in Alexandria as well. So all of these things are going to foster investments coming in and out of Egypt. And this, of course, is something that investors are looking at. Other things as well, we need to look at the policies that Egypt have enacted. We know that in about 2015 or 2016, things like capital inflows, capital restrictions were removed, the currency regime was changed. So all of that has led to a place where Egypt is in a very, very good position as a country in Africa for investments to come in, and that's where Egypt currently are, and that's why investors are looking towards that country.
I give it to them. Just about a week ago, the report was that President Al-Sisi says the country has spent about $400 billion in local investments over the last 6 years or so. So that goes all the way back to 2016 also when you're talking about. So it's been quite aggressive. Yeah. And I think we should just say kudos to them if they're doing it right on the continent. But do you think we will be able to attract more investment into clean energy moving forward? Do you see that happening?
Of course, it's going to happen, because if we look at where the world is going to, where the world is transitioning to, we see countries trying to pivot away from fossil fuels into alternative energy. And we know for a certain that while Africa may not be at the forefront in terms of emissions, but ultimately Africa will also have to catch up, because if you are looking at investments that want to come into the continent, you are not going to get financing if it doesn't align with where the world is trying to transition to. So, I mean, there's really no choice for Africa as a continent, because ultimately we are going to have to transition and also move with the world in terms of where we want to be in the next 30 years. So, of course, we are going to see inflows when it comes to alternative energy when coming into Africa.
Well, what can we learn from what, sorry to piggyback a bit on Egypt, what can we learn from what Egypt has been able to achieve?
Okay, yes, in fact, it's about three things actually. The first one being the fact that things like FX policies,
capital controls.
Yeah, capital controls need to be fixed. I mean, it's one thing for investors to be able to bring in money, but it's another thing for them to be able to take it out. And we know that with the current policies we have, we know that it's a problem for investors to actually take their money out when it's time to actually take money out of Nigeria. And of course, that fact that they can't take out their money unfettered is a problem for investors. What they want for is certainty that they will be able, when they need to take their money out. That's one thing. Another thing we need to look at is the fact that things like policies, how do we arrive at our policies? Are they draconian or a lot more inclusive?
Fiscal, you mean?
Yeah, fiscal policies. So, I mean, if they are the process of getting towards those policies, in fact, if they are draconian and not inclusive, then, of course, that's a red flag for investors. So, I mean, all these things need to be fixed in the first place before we say we want to attract investors into the country.
Well, here is if you move down the continent and you talked about the Central African Republic with the Congo getting about $455 million loan facility from the IMF. 2 years on from the pandemic, why is this interesting in Congo?
Okay, yes, for a fact, we know that there are certain things the IMF will even ask from a country before they can even end up giving a facility and end up disbursing. And of course, there are going to be certain nuances depending on what country you are looking at. But I mean, ultimately, it's going to depend on what the economic fundamentals of the country, Congo, for instance, is going to be. I mean, things like capital controls, what's it like? Things like the currency policies, what's it like? So, of course, before the IMF can even think about giving this facility to Congo, they must satisfy certain things, and the IMF must also believe that these economic fundamentals are solid and something that is sustainable as well. So, of course, this is something that I believe Congo have met. And of course, that's why the IMF has ended up giving them this facility.
I think President Tshisekedi has really been trying to do a whole lot. He's been trying to allocate a whole lot more on their annual budget over the last few years into agriculture, because apart from mining, Congo is also rich in terms of being a bread basket as well. So quite a whole lot. I think President Tshisekedi is actually moving a whole lot there. Thank you so much for coming through this morning, Seyi Omodiora from Financial Derivatives Company. Our best regards. And that's the wrap on your Global Business Report. Stay tuned to Arise News from all of us here in Lagos. Thank you for your company wherever you're watching. I am Bosin Amafai. I'll definitely see you next time.